Hello and welcome to my channel. Now, I always forget to mention to like the video and subscribe until the end, so like the video and subscribe if you haven't already. I would really appreciate it. But let's get into the video, and this time we are discussing Acacia by David Anthony Durham, and this one is one that I DNF'd a little shy of 200 pages in. Now, I felt like I had definitely enough feedback and thoughts on the book to still post a video on it, and so that's why I am, even though I didn't quite make it halfway through. And just to state right off the bat, the book wasn't awful by any means, but it just didn't really pull me in at all or give me anything that particularly interested me. And I kept thinking like, oh, wait just a little longer for this to happen, or oh, wait a little longer for this thing they're setting up to happen. And it never really made me want to keep reading up until the point that I stopped. So Acacia is about a dynastic empire who are called the Acacians, and they live on an island called Acacia for the acacia trees that grow on it. I'm going to stop saying the word acacia so many times right now. Now, the darker past to the empire is that many generations ago, they traded with this mysterious race from across the waves, and those people trade them opium and they trade them children, and this trade is what the entire empire is founded on. The people are sated by the opium, they send the children, it keeps everyone in line, and that's kind of the setup. We find out that also many years ago there was a specific race of men who said, that's messed up, we're not okay with that, and they were called the Mean. And the Mean then were banished into the desolate north, where they lived and slowly started building an army and a navy for many years in secret, and now are planning to war with the Acacians and destroy their empire and take over the world. They're aided by yet another mysterious army coming this time from the north, past the polarized caps, but they are related to the other mysterious type of people also. That's the base plot of the book, and it starts with 8 different chapters introducing 8 different characters, none of which really made me care about any of the characters. It included the Acacian king, all 4 of his children, his advisor, and then we saw a couple of other miscellaneous political forces, as well as some of the Mean, including the assassin who is planning to kill the king. The characters from each just felt very flat and didn't really have any life to them. It felt more like kind of reading a history and just reading about the events than it did reading a fantasy story. It's here I'll note this is apparently the first book this author did outside of historical fiction, so it would make sense that that's kind of where he felt comfortable and that's where he was writing, but it's just that feel really shows, and for this kind of story it just doesn't really work because I'm reading about these characters but I just don't particularly care about them. Early on too, especially, there were a lot of things said where we have scenes that are just very obviously scenes specifically only there because we need to read them. Things like we have a character say, "It's always been this way, don't you know? How could you not know how it's always been?" Or we see an event that would have definitely happened before, but is only suddenly now for the very first time happening. Just things that didn't really seem believable, because why would people only have noticed this just then, or this tension that must have been there for a long time only show up right this second, and just things like that. And also the opener to my least favorite chapter, which I actually remember, was the assassin had to remain in secret because of course he did, and that's not the actual line, but that's basically what it was. It's talking about this assassin who's in hiding in Acacia because he has no choice. He has to be in hiding because he's trying to kill the king. And I'm just like, yeah, that's sort of self-explanatory. I get that. And it just, in some ways you do expect some expository information to be delivered this way. You do see that in books a lot, where maybe something's happened but you need to kind of be reminded of it, but it just was pretty clumsy here. And I pushed past the first 100 or so pages, which were mostly expository. Like I said, the first 8 chapters were all just introducing new characters, and there really wasn't a ton happening, and I kept hoping hoping it would go somewhere, and it just never really happened for me. It's certainly possible that maybe the book improves a little bit later, but for a book that I'm almost 200 pages in, and the back of it, it says not only is this guy a historical fiction writer, so you think he'd be good at creating details and, you know, weaving nice history, but also his battle scenes and general tone were compared to some titans of fantasy and the blurbs on the back. And if I'm 200 pages in and I just could not care less, there's something wrong. I don't really like the DNF books very much. I don't take it lightly, but there was nothing in this one for me. I just need something, whether it's characters, whether it's plot, whether it's action, and I just really was getting none of it. I actually kept going until some battle scenes were supposed to happen, and basically they were just kind of either over before they started and you got to see none of it, or it just was glossed over, and I just got to that point where that was kind of the last thing I was waiting for, and I'm like, okay, I'm done. Now, one good thing I'll say is the base plotline kind of reminded me of Torchwood Children of Earth, which was the third Torchwood series. So that was fun. I haven't seen that in a really long time, but that's immediately where I went with the trading the children thing. So there you go. I said at least something positive here. But overall, I just found nothing that made me want to keep reading this. It's an over 500 page book, and so I really didn't want to read for 300 plus more pages if this was all I was going to be getting. So there you go, my review of Acacia by David Anthony Durham. If you read this book or the other two books, it is a trilogy, and they are all out. Let me know if you think I'm wrong or if you disagree and why. I really would be interested in knowing if this gets better or maybe it's just not my taste. That's definitely possible as well. But like I said, I wasn't finding anything I liked in it, so if you did, definitely let me know. I would love to hear from you. With that, if you did enjoy the video, then please feel free to give it a like, and then feel free to subscribe if you'd like to see more of my content.